let me ask you first about this post-conflict stuff, because it seems to me we're in a phase now where people have almost completely lost faith in this thing that is called post-conflict reconstruction. What's your sense of the extent to which this thing is necessary to do, can be done? Is America naive about this, or what?
All of the above. I think it's often necessary. More can be done than the skeptics think, less can be done than the idealists, both on the neocon side and on the liberal side, think. And America is completely naive about it. We oscillate between, oh, there's no point, it's stupid, it's hopeless, there's, it's a waste of time and money, and thinking that we will radically reshape other cultures in, a couple months with a few $million bucks. I've certainly come to the view that we have to be very humble about it, and that, frankly, whether we're talking about rebuilding rule of law institutions or governance institutions or almost anything, that probably the right approach to take is to say to yourself, let's imagine that whatever it is that I do here, that the funding will run out in 1 year, and that the political will run out in 1 year, and that any foreigners involved in this will be recalled back home or go back home in 1 year. What, if anything, could we do that would still have left behind, do more good than harm?
That's a tough bar to cross.
Well, actually, I don't think it is, because I think it pushes you in the direction of thinking smaller, and it pushes you in the direction of really focusing on the fact that you won't be there to see it through, that it's going to be the people who live there who will have to see it through. And so I think if we reformulate our thinking that way, actually, there are things that can make a big difference. Not in the sort of sweeping, dramatic way, but in a small way that still matters. In addition to the work at the State Department, right in that same period, I worked for Human Rights Watch for a while. I worked for giving out other people's money, particularly giving out George Soros's money for a while for the Open Society Foundation. And one of my favorite programs I worked with of all time, this was right after the State Department job. I convinced the George Soros and other folks at his foundation that in Sierra Leone we should give out micro-loans, not micro-loans, excuse me, micro-grants, by which I meant grants of $25, 50 bucks. And I felt like one of those CIA agents, like the walking around money. Yeah. Because we were working with community groups that were so tiny they didn't have bank accounts often. We had to help them figure out how to open a bank account. They could not absorb the $50,000, $100,000 grants that most of the big international foundations wanted to give, but they were often the tiny little groups that were actually quite well placed. With $50 could go a pretty long way in war-torn Sierra Leone in 2000, 2001. So some of these little tiny, that literally were just to use things like clean up the street, make the toilet work kind of stuff. That, yeah, it's small. But on the other hand, the difference in people's day-to-day lives of 25 or 50 bucks, the right moment in the right place, was pretty significant. That was actually a lot of fun and very, very gratifying.
Yeah, okay.
To give out such tiny bits of money.
Well, it's hard, of course, hard for Americans to do small things. Right. We're more like Afghanistan. We come in and we pour in, $1 billion in agricultural assistance, and soon we've just corrupted the economy.
That was the challenge at the Open Society Foundation, was how do we run a program where the amounts of money are this tiny, and how do we we're not built to do this.
Yeah.